How you doing, folks? Welcome back to another edition of Real Men Talks, where I get to chat to guys who I find interesting and I feel they've got something to say and you'd be worth listening to. So, Matt, and this is Matthew Gillespie, a good friend of mine. I've known him for quite a long time from the Iron Fit days. So, Matt, how are you keeping, mate?
Very well. Considering the times that we're all having to deal with, I am fine and dandy.
That's good. How's the family?
Healthy and happy. Everyone's good.
That's all you want, isn't it? So, Matt, listen, you would be one of the, I suppose, pioneers of the skateboard and BMXing scene in Belfast. And I got to know you through Iron Fit and being in the Iron Fit skate park and the T13 skate park with Iron Fit there. How exactly did you get into the skateboarding and the BMXing scene?
You know what? My brother collected bike parts, and he done bikes up and flogged them to make a few quid whenever he was younger. And I'm like seven years younger than my brother. So I think I was maybe 8 or 9, and he was basically going to the dump, grabbing BMXs, bringing them home, tarting them up, flogging them, and doing tricks and things around the house on BMXs. And it just got to the point one day where I kind of noticed it, and I saw a chrome BMX, and I thought, that's class. Can I have a go? And of course he said no. And I was raging. So I went straight into the house and gave off to my mum that he wouldn't let me have a go on his bike and blah, blah, blah. And it must have been my birthday really shortly after that, because the bike that I asked for a go on, he presented to me for my birthday. Class. So I don't know if it was my 8th or 9th birthday, but I remember the doorbell going, and I went to the front door, and it was him, and he was there, and he gave me the bike. And I probably, from that moment, I think I maybe BMX'd every day for possibly 10 years, like every single day. And it was amazing.
Are you still as heavily involved? Like, are you still as passionate about the BMXing and the tricks as you were back then?
You know what? It's a different world now. I mean, I don't think I'll ever stop. You know, I was BMXing last night, literally pads and helmet on, riding with a couple of mates and just having a good time, talking, you know, a good time for guys to get together and shoot the breeze and talk about life and, you know, away from wife and kids and work and everything. And it's fantastic. So now it's more of a relax and escape, hang out with the mates. Whereas whenever I was younger, as soon as I started doing it, everything about it was completely new and exciting to me. You know, all of a sudden I could cycle to my mate's house, not walk, because I don't even think I had a bike before I got a BMX.
Right.
And then I started traveling, you know, so I cycled to school, and then I cycled to Ormo Park, which was like about 1.5 miles away from my house. So as soon as I got that bike, it was like a new lease of life. It was like a freedom thing for me. And that was amazing. And that's probably what got me hooked. And I just kept traveling and absolutely lapped up everything to do with it. The people, the bikes, the tricks, the parts, everything about it. Just loved it. Whereas now it's like, I haven't ever actually left it. So from I got that very first BMX at 8 or 9 years old, I still have a bike now and have had for 25 years. And now literally it's my job, which is funny because when I think of my teenage years, my parents were absolutely not fuming, but they definitely gave me the impression, thought I was wasting my time, you know, and they were like, would you please pay attention to your studies, and would you just get your GCSEs done and this, that, and the other thing? And I was like, I will, but I'm not stopping the biking, you know. And I never did, and here we are. So
what you said there, it's something that, you know, how old are you now, Matt? You're what, 39,
35 soon.
35? Geez, you're old looking. I didn't realize you're half a year old. 35. So yeah, that's right. I'm 8 years younger than you, or older than you. But what I've noticed as well is like MMA, like I was always in the martial arts, and when I started MMA, I was told by mum and dad, don't do it. It's madness. Why you want to do that human cockfighting and all that stuff? And then through the MMA, I opened my own gym. Again, my dad told me, don't be doing that. That's madness. And then I went to strength training. And everything my mom and dad always told me not to do, I've always done. And I've always succeeded in it. And it made me, like as a father now, I've got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, but I think parents can fall into the trap of listening to like living in their own sort of era and not realizing that times move
That's
forward,
right.
and then sort of projecting their fears onto their children. And it's something that I hope I'm never going to do to my kids, because ultimately it's not our life to live. We're their guide. They chose. I'm a big believer in like reincarnation and spirituality and all. So I believe that they've chose to be here, and I'm merely a vessel to get them here. So it's their life, and it's not my decision to. I am there to guide them, but ultimately they have to be the ones to make their own decision in their lives. I think that's something that I hope that I don't make a mistake as a parent. Do you think that's going to come across in your life? Do you think you're going to like take those lessons away? And
You know what? I'm actually already aware of it. So I read a book not that long ago, and you know what? I'm lying. I didn't read the book. I listened to an audiobook. I listened to an audiobook, and it said something that it really resonated with me, because it was within the last year. And let's face it, lots of us have done nothing but think in the last year, because I'm like you. My work is my passion. So every time I leave the house, I'm having a good time as well as working. So time just bloody flies. But because that's stopped for the most part, I've been going back to tech and doing courses and listening to audiobooks and reading this, that, and the other thing. And one of the things that really resonated with me that I heard quite recently was never let your parents make important decisions for you when you're growing up, or never feel like you need to move away from your chosen path because of what your parents want, because ultimately you're living your life. And when it gets to a point where you're at the point of no return and you feel like you could have, and then you have these regrets and you did what you did because your parents wanted to, that's where you can build that's where you can create a barrier between your parents and build up some resentment. When actual fact, what you're saying you've done, and what I ended up doing, was I did the complete opposite of what my parents wanted. They wanted me to tone down on the BMX and do my exams. When actual fact, I passed my GCSEs anyway and kept BMXing. But then after that, I didn't go to college or university. I just got stuck into work and kept BMXing. And then my parents were saying, you need a career. Get into an apprenticeship and go and get yourself a job for life. Because ultimately they want security. They want to know that we're absolutely, totally taken care of, so they can leave us alone and know that we're kept. When actual fact, that's not where satisfaction and growth and happiness and confidence comes from.
yeah.
So when I look back on my parents saying, my dad said to me one time, could have been about the year 2000 or something. He says to me, son, your head's full of sweetie mice. You don't know what to concentrate on. And like, come on, that's 20 years ago. And I remember it like he said it to me yesterday. Whereas here we are now. My dad's my business partner. He went from saying, you're mental, never do that. And now he literally supports me and works with me. Like, how cool is that? It's just complete flipped on its head. But that was a decision I made, not even knowing that was going to be the outcome. I didn't realize that it was actually going to benefit both of our relationships, mine with them and them with me not doing what they wanted and just doing what I wanted. And I think a lot of people miss that trick.
I think our parents are from a different generation where it's braided into them, get a job, 9 to 5, pay your taxes. This is your lot, and their worldview sort of like it's narrowed into this wee tiny funnel. And they're not able to actually generate the thought pattern to get themselves out of that bubble and realize that just because they have been conditioned that way, it doesn't mean that everyone else will be the exact same. And I think, if anything, I will encourage my kids to just fail as often as they can, because every failure I've ever had has turned out to push me forward to the success I've got today. And I know I'm going to fail again. I'm going to fail again. I'll learn again from that. And that's what life's about. Life is about overcoming the challenges and the hurdles. And why do we have to believe that the rat race is just what we're getting because we're not millionaires? I think we're forgetting about life and living for this idea of having a 9 to 5 job.
At what point of, I don't know, primary, secondary, or even further education is it even brought in to embrace life and time and the ability to be present? I mean, I'm literally learning all this stuff, and literally changing I'm actively changing my routine and my decisions on a weekly and monthly basis to tweak my life for the better. Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to work all the time.
But I think you're the minority now. You know, I'd say there's about 10 to maybe more, maybe 15, 20% of the world are sort of our mindset. And then the other 80% are just like, they just follow the sheep. It's like the rat race. They just can't seem to get that hamster wheel.
You know the phrase "keeping up with the Joneses"?
Yeah.
See, whenever you like stand back or sit back and you think about who you know and what they do and why they do it, you're just like, holy crap. So you went and bought a boat because your mate's got a boat. And you went and got a caravan because your mate's got a caravan. And you're going on 2 foreign holidays because such and such had 2 foreign holidays. And now you need to upgrade your car because such and such got a car. And I'm so glad I'm not that person.
And I guarantee you they've never asked themselves, never once have they asked themselves, what is it that I want? It's like they're trying to project. I think society's become this hive of trying to project the life that you think everyone else thinks you should be living. And you've got to live up to this sort of like fake reality.
Live up to the bog standard expectation. So I need a car, and the wife needs a car, and I need a house, and I need a garden, and the garden needs a trampoline or a hot tub, and I need to go on holiday every summer. And I mean, really, a funny thing is my parents didn't really go by that. I mean, they certainly knocked their pans in and worked all our childhood. Like, we didn't do foreign holidays or anything like that. Dad was always working. I guess he was an entrepreneur, but he didn't really know it. He kind of fell into business. And then my mum was just always a grafter. So, I mean, my parents have worked themselves nearly into their bloody grave. And now they're retired. I'm still trying to get them to the thinking of, would you just relax? Don't bother. Just let's get the grandkids over and just be granny and granddad. Don't fucking try and cut the grass and this, that, and the other thing.
I don't think I've worked a day in my life, to be honest. In the last, well, that's a lie. These the jobs I didn't like, but for the last 12 years, I haven't worked a day in my life. It's just been joy. It's been like I said just before lockdown made me reflect a lot, and I realized that I was actually falling out of love with coaching because the pressure of trying to run a business. I was trying to build this business the way the fitness industry is trying to tell you to build a business. And lockdown gave me that opportunity to sit back and go, what is it that I want? What's my vision? Fuck the rest of them. Fuck trying to follow what the business mentors that I've got to tell me to do. What does I need to do on a daily basis to bring happiness and to bring contentment to my life? And it made me realize that I need to be face-to-face coaching people that I want to have communication with. I want to interact with people. I like deep, meaningful conversations. I like challenging conversations. I like arguing. Everyone knows me. I love to argue. I'll argue with a fucking shadow. But it's not like I want to argue with just the sake of it. I just like to have debates, and because through debates and through intelligent conversation, you start seeing different dynamics in life and different sort of perspectives. And I think that's crucial for me. That's what I had to say to that. Like, I don't need millions of pounds. I just need to know that the bills are paid, the kids I can provide for my family, and I get up every day wanting to do the things that I want to do.
Totally. And only whenever you get to that point of realizing that, all of a sudden money becomes almost irrelevant, and control and happiness and not feeling overwhelmed by things that aren't important becomes important. See, right now, when I think about reopening, I mean, we let's say, for example, we had 40 services we offered as a business. I'm cutting that down to 10 because 30 of them, I'm keeping up with the Joneses by offering these services that I think my business should be. But really, it costs me money, doesn't earn very much, puts a lot of strain on myself and the staff. And I had a reintroduction to work meeting with my staff a couple of days ago. And I said, right, guys, listen, moving forward, we're not going to do these things anymore. And we are going to do these things. And I mean, in a 5-minute conversation, or in that 5-minute topic, everybody went away feeling immediately lifted because we knew we weren't going to continue with that rat race part of the business. Stick to what we're good at.
With your business, it isn't a rat race business. Like, you can't, I don't think your business should be successful by following the herd, because it's an urban sport. It's, it's dynamic. There's risk involved. There's injury involved. It's like cool clothing and tricks, and it's that sort of culture. It's got a different culture than most societies. It's like almost like the outcasts.
Yeah.
And you think you need to sort of attract that type of clientele and attract that thing. You need to be different. You can't follow the same path.
So the point I was making a second ago there was, we were trying to do things that we felt that we should do, not necessarily what people were asking for. We were like, let's introduce this, or let's be ahead of the game with this, when in actual fact, we're either ahead of our time or the demand's not there for it yet. So we're cutting it back and we're simplifying things, and we're working towards finally getting reopened after, 14 months? It'll be 16 months I'm closed by the time I get reopened. And Jesus. We have downed 75% of our staff. So we're like a skeleton of who we at the start of 2020.
How many were you employing at the start?
February 2020, I had 12 staff. Now I have 4.
And can you see you bringing back them member staff, or do you think you've now structured that you don't need that staff and you can now work on less staff and like better service?
We're simplifying the business, actually. So there was a lot of services that we were offering that complicated things and meant that we constantly had to bring in subcontractors, and it increased our insurance, it increased our risk that we had to manage, it increased the admin time, it increased the event prep time, risk assessment time, all that kind of stuff. And I just said, right, listen, guys, let's take 9 out of 10 of that stuff and shelve it. Yes, we will use it, but at very specific times and dates. And the rest of the time, let's just keep it a free-flowing recreational venue where people come in and do their thing, and we will work towards reaching people in new ways. But instead of trying to be all things to all men, run every kind of coaching club possible for every age group. And, it's really, really difficult, especially now because we've lost certain expertise. I don't have all of the people that I had before, so I can't expect to reopen and offer everything I could before.
Yeah.
So we're getting back to business with a simplified model. I'm happy with that. We will give it a couple of months to build back up. And yes, eventually we will definitely bring people back in. But for starting off again, we're just going to go with who we have. And
so
build up.
You started, was your first journey into like business running T13?
No.
It was actually before that.
So it's not even like I planned it. In Bangor, there was a skate park inside Eddie Irvine Sports. We're talking 1999 to 2005. It was a skate park, and I absolutely loved it. It was my everything. I was at the skate park probably twice a week, every week for 5 or 6 years. And all of a sudden, without any warning, it just closed. So I had went on a Thursday night, came back on a Sunday, because those are the 2 days of the week that I went, Thursday and Sunday. And the entire skate park was stripped out and gone. But there was no warning. There was no final session. There was no anything. It was just, it closed down. And I mean, it was like losing a lung or a leg. I just couldn't believe it, because it was probably the most amazing space. Like that 4,000 square foot of skate park was just the most unbelievable place in my world at the time. And it disappeared. And I was absolutely devastated. So I met a group of guys through an extreme sports magazine that was featuring local athletes and just basically creating content on local Irish BMX and skate scene. And we just got together and said, right, are we going to open a skate park? And of course, I'm not a yes man, but I'm like, yeah, I'm up for it. So I kind of just fell into business by very badly wanting somewhere to ride. And then all of a sudden, like a year later, after the skate park closed, all of a sudden, I'm now a director of a company that runs a skate park. And I think I was like 18 with no business experience, no experience at banking, didn't even know what an accountant was. You know what I mean? And we just winged it and made it work. But I mean, that first skate park we opened was called Unit 13. It was in Dunmurry, in Kilwee Business Park.
Kilwee, yeah.
We weren't even experienced ramp builders. We just knew what we liked to ride and roughly what the measurements were, and just built an entire park of what we knew we liked to ride and just chipped away at it for 3 years until it basically outgrew itself. There was too much demand for a small wee building, and then we ended up moving into Belfast, and T13 was the Titanic size version of Unit 13, and that's really where the name came from. So,
it was an epic place. Like one that there was just I know there was holes in the roof and it was freezing cold.
Some people look at it with rose tinted glasses. When I think back on it, I think of the phenomenal stress, pressure, and sacrifices involved in making that look even what it was to the outside. Because I was literally in the absolute center of what happened in that place. For me, looking back on it, it was like probably the hardest work I've ever done in my life that I might not ever do again. Do you know what I mean? Right. It was unrealistic beyond epic, unrealistic proportions. Like we're talking 90 hours a week for 5 years straight. You're just like, I don't believe you. I mean, like, well, I don't care. You don't have to believe me, but it happened.
Well, I do remember, actually, thinking back on it, I do remember you being a stress bunny, like you were.
But do you ever remember a time I wasn't there?
No, as I'm saying, I remember you being stressed, and I remember you always like you were like you could just see. But I actually thought it was an epic place. I know there was pigeons everywhere, and there was holes, and when it rained, you'd fucking have this deluge coming down. But there was something about that. I thought it was class to see these young kids just like dropping into those big fucking ramps on their wee scooters, and I'm standing over going, "Get the fuck out of here!" I'm not doing that. And these wee 8-year-olds are going, "It's easy, mister." Whee! I was just like, I just love the whole urban scene. It was, and like when I'm training people, and we've got this class like rig and everything, and where people are squatting and there's the music pumping. I just really thought winter was horrible. Winter was disgusting.
Oh yeah.
It was cold. I remember one time I was doing a 7 a.m. session, and I went into the hut that we had, and I put a blanket over me, and I had a heater down under my feet, and I just remember it was the closest I came to crying in my life, just because it was so cold. I was miserable. I was just like, "Oh,
and it never got better."
No, it was cold.
It never got better.
So what happened? Why did T13 fail, or what happened that it closed? Or is that too painful to talk about?
Nah, you know what? I was really upset about it, actually, when I left. I decided to leave in 2015 after setting it up in 2010. And I decided to move on basically because we had went into the building, myself and my business partner, to extend upon the success of Unit 13 Skate Park. So at the time, there's a whole massive story for this. So we started Unit 13 Skate Park because we had nowhere to ride. This is Dunmurry in 2006, late 2006. And then while we were running Dunmurry, we decided that we were going to talk to Belfast City Council and see, can we use the stats from this skate park to get them to build a permanent skate park for Belfast? And that was like a 6-year project, start to finish. And basically we were showing that people were travelling from the whole length and breadth of Ireland to come to Unit 13 Skate Park. So we had people from Derry, Fermanagh, Enniskillen, Dublin, Limerick, Cork, doesn't matter. You pick a place, it didn't matter. There was almost nowhere else to ride or go to, so people travelled everywhere and came to there. So because we knew that it was successful, but it was successful as a venue, not as a business. So by the time we moved down to Unit 13, we had like serious debt with the landlord. Now, the debt with the landlord, that actual landlord that owned Kilwee Business Park was a trust, and at the time we were operating as a charity. So they actually let our debt go. Believe it or not, they wiped the slate clean. We owed them 30 grand of unpaid rent because we just couldn't charge enough money, even with the place full all the time, to cover the bare costs of rent, rates and electricity. But moving to T13, I mean, the T13 building, which was originally Harland Wolff Central Stores, it's the only actual ginormous shipyard original building left from the shipyard era. on the Titanic side of the cranes. So whenever we moved in there, that building is like 26 times bigger than Unit 13. So, I mean, my idea for T13 when we first opened it was, okay, listen, skaters have a certain type of thing that they like to ride or skate. BMXers like to ride a certain type of ramp. Scooter kids like to ride something different. Mountain bikers like to ride something different. And rollerbladers like to ride something different again. Why don't we have a ginormous building and build everything that everybody wants in the one building, but all separately? And that's what we did, and it worked amazingly. And that's probably one of the reasons why I would attribute its success and how it became so popular so quick. Because if you were a skater coming from a long distance, you knew that you were going to get the skate plaza. And if you were a BMXer, flying up the motorway from wherever, Dublin and beyond, you knew that you were going to get to spend all day riding something just like what you wanted to ride, built for BMXers, that other BMXers were going to be riding and enjoying with you all day long. Same with the rollerbladers, same with the scooter kids. So there was like 5 different zones, and every zone was targeted specifically towards a certain sport. So when the place was absolutely buzzing, everybody was still able to enjoy their own little micro environment under the one umbrella of the T13 roof. And that's one of the things that I enjoyed most about it. And a lot of other skate parks and places that you go to don't really do that. They just have one big open plan park. And we seem to take all the elements, but not feel the need to force a rollerblader to do what they want to do in the middle of a BMXer doing what he wants to do, because ultimately they're under the one roof, but they want to do different things.
Yeah.
They want the handrail to be, BMXers want it this height, but rollerbladers want it this height, and then skaters want it even smaller. So if you build them all their own custom built zone, then everybody gets what they want, and it's great.
It was huge.
And we did that, and it was awesome. And I mean, when I think back on the events that we delivered, like, we have had the absolute creme de la creme of the action sports world in Belfast, in that dirty old shipyard building full of pigeons, with toilets that barely flush, just about electricity, and always freezing temperatures. It's just
had this ability. He's had this vision. That's one thing because I always remember going, like, I was more negative thinking back then, and I remember when you were telling me we're going to have this Jaguar thing, I was going, what the fuck are they talking about? And then there were these classes you're walking through. He's had the visions that no one else had. You're walking through those the containers and all, and by the time it was finished, I remember going, fuck, these boys are doing this.
Jaguar launched the XE and XF in T13.
Right, I remember that.
That happened, like.
I know.
But here's the thing, right? As cool as that was, that's also the reason why it stopped working, because it started off as the action and urban sports mecca, and it worked really, really well as that, and that could have grown and grown and grown exponentially over time. But it got to the point where, yourself, the building was so big and so inspiring to people who come in, being like, how on earth did you think to take a building like this and turn it into this? That was almost everybody's first question, how or why? And then the third question on everyone's mind is, can you do this? So we would have people coming in day and daily saying, I'm from such and such marketing, branding, blah, blah, blah agency. Could you do this? And the guys who I work with at the time were all about, absolutely, come and talk to me. Let's see if we can do whatever you want. But what ended up happening was we ended up delivering so many different events, and we diversified so much, and it turned into, I think the last words I heard it being called was a hybrid venue. And that's a buzz term. But the fact that it did evolve into a gig venue, an event venue, a cultural hub, and a skate park, no one thing thrived. Everything compromised everything else. And yourself, there was times whenever you were taking apart and moving your entire coaching rig to facilitate a music event. And then there was this mental idea that we could be open for business the next morning. And don't get me wrong, we tried, but it didn't work. And I remember there's something I'll never forget, and it was one of the it really hurt me actually. It was one of the reasons why I decided to leave. A woman came from Derry the day after one of the large music events, and because the building literally couldn't be made safe and ready to let customers in, she had booked a birthday party and brought a whole carload of kids. We're talking like 15 kids from Derry. That's a long drive, and it was early on a Sunday morning, and we had to turn her away, and there was crying kids, and she was furious, and I was just like, I can't believe that. And it was out of my control. Do you know what I mean? But I was just like, that can't ever happen again. You can't disappoint people like that. Especially when that's your core business.
Yeah, I remember having to come in and clean up, but I remember coming in, I remember, who was it? There was one of the kids was lying sleeping on the fucking blocked. Like,
listen, stop talking.
I had to go and pick up all the rubbish up myself and start moving the gym myself. So it was, but I suppose they were experiences. And in fairness, though, I will say one thing: T13 and having to move the gym and move that gym into so many iron fit about so many places, I became an expert at understanding layouts of gyms. That's something that it's really helped me. I can go into a gym and I can figure out a layout very fast, and I am very confident in going, right, I can get this built up very quickly. So all those experiences might be in pain in the hole, but there were knowledge bombs you were picking up yourself, and it's the experience teaches you.
If I was to draw a positive out of that situation, I mean, that is absolutely invaluable learning experiences. You know, if you take the attitude of win and lose, we lost massively. But in actual fact, if you take the other attitude of win and learn, I did 20 different apprenticeships working in that place in 5 years. I probably built 6 different 6 to 10,000 square foot skate parks for skaters, bladers, bikers, everything. And then I learned to weld in there, and I learned how to use a camera, how to use a video camera, how to do risk assessment, how to do this, how to do that. It was absolutely insane.
See, here's something that you probably don't know. I remember, now that you've just told me how stressed you are, I understand it. But I can always remember you as being a grumpy one, right? But you were tired. But I still remember the day that I actually changed my mind on you, and I realised that it was wrong. We were stuck down. Remember where Iron Fit was? We were put in the wee corner. Do you remember?
Which corner? Oh, at the very front door.
The very front door to the left-hand side. We were the right-hand side, sorry, as you walk in.
Yes.
I remember you were the only one. I was stuck, and you came down and started helping me move it, and we had a good conversation. And it was the first time I'd actually spent time talking to you. And I didn't realize you were part of the management system in this. I just thought you were just a dude working there.
Well, that's
the funny thing. Talking for about an hour and a half, 2 hours doing the work, and I actually remember going away going, "Fuck, I got him wrong." And I can clearly remember that. Still, I remember you were in the corner and you were drilling, and I realized, fuck, he's got some amount of skills when it comes to building things and dismantling and putting things up. And I was sort of like humbled a wee bit. I was like, fuck, I got this guy completely wrong. And I can still remember that clear as day. And that's when I started getting having a lot more time for you and a lot more respect for you, because I remember having a really decent conversation and just enjoying doing the work when I was talking away to you. So there's a wee bit of thing you didn't know. But what did you think when you left T13? Did you think to yourself, that's me done? I don't want to go back to skateboarding, or did you just go, or was it making more hungry to make it yours?
No. Actually, everything about what T13 started off was, I can't pretend to take all the credit for it, Paul, because I didn't do all the work, and I wasn't certainly the mastermind behind everything that we did and started and evolved into. But when it came to design and layout and understanding the flow and customer management and expectations and how ramp design evolved and how competitions were laid out and how coaching happened, that was literally all my idea. So I was almost leading the team and the development of T13 from opening right up until we started doing cultural and music events. So every single time something was designed, I was designing it, and I was getting the build team together, and I was procuring the wood and finding out how we were going to get the money, and then how we're going to launch it, and who should make a video about it, and who we should get over to film tricks on it to get everyone to pay attention to it, you know. So I was kind of leading it, and I was completely in my element, and I really, really enjoyed that. Once we started going down the music route avenue, I'm kind of thinking to myself, we are not experts in this. We don't own any equipment. We don't really have that many contacts in this industry. So don't get me wrong, we've got a big open space, but that's it. And whenever the rest of the team, and there was executive and non-executive directors in that organization, but ultimately we were all coming together and talking about things. And I remember saying, probably at about 2013, it's like, I don't want to do this. This isn't a good idea. We're not good at this. We don't have enough expertise. We don't have enough clout, credibility. We don't have a flipping, we don't have a bar license. We don't have this. We don't have that. And as we started testing out these music events, I remember the first ever music event we did lost us £30,000.
What?
So how's that for a shocker? So going into it, I was like, I don't want to do this. It's not a good idea. To whenever we're all said and done and we're looking at the books, that's how much of a loss we made. And I'm thinking, whoa. I don't want to cut my teeth and make losses to get better at this. I just don't want to do it, you know. And ultimately, it just evolved into a really weird situation. And I guess the directors and I grew apart because I wanted to stay true to the reason why I committed my entire life to that place. Now, I had a fantastic job. I was a design engineer for Bombardier, and I'd finished my apprenticeship, and I was in a job for life. You know, I was going to be kept and looked after exactly as my parents wanted. And it got to a point where the skate park and the development of our project to get the Bridges skate park for Belfast demanded so many hours a week. I just had to go to my boss and say, listen, thanks for everything, but I'm out. And he's just like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to go and do stuff with bikes and skate parks. And he thought it was insane. And when I told my parents, they were furious and they thought it was insane. And I just thought to myself, do you know what? I could have moved to England with a friend in 2008 and tried to be a pro BMXer, and I didn't. I stayed at home to build ramps and keep the skate park open. And it kind of got to the point of no return where I was like, right, listen, I'm too far away from that now to catch up. It's past me. I can't do it. I can't go and be a pro BMXer, even though I really wanted to. So I just stayed at home and I thought, right, if I can't do that, I'm going to make sure I run good skate parks, and I'm going to make sure that people always have access to stuff that I didn't have when I was younger. Because when I started biking, huh?
Are you responsible for the building, getting the bridge park built, the open air one?
Bridges, yeah. So I was the chairman of the charity that partnered with the council to get the $500,000 off Piece 3 to get that built.
Is that right?
No,
that's one Tony. I didn't know. Is that the one Tony Hawk came? Is that the one Tony Hawk came to?
Yeah.
Class.
And do you know why Tony Hawk was in Ireland?
No.
Because he renewed his wedding vows at some big posh country manor somewhere down near Cork.
And he came up to Belfast
before he took a flight back to New York or something, and he just cruised into Bridges for a skate.
Were you there that day?
Do you know what? I drove past. What do you call that big square?
Custom House Square.
I drove past Custom House Square, and I shit you not, I looked out the window and I was like, did I just see Tony Hawk? And I got straight on. I pulled over, right? I drove around the corner where the big fish is, pulled in, went on my phone, and I just went, is Tony Hawk in Belfast? ? On Facebook. And it just went, all of a sudden, everybody knew that he was in Belfast and he was at Bridges for a couple of hours. But he was literally here to renew his wedding vows. And the amount of famous people who were all in the country at the time was insane. And you know when I found out about this? Yesterday.
You're joking.
Yesterday. Because it was Tony Hawk's 40th birthday or something on Monday. And all these pro BMXers and skaters on my Instagram. What? Oh no, maybe he's 50. He's 40 or 50. It must be 50 or something. But anyway, it was his birthday, and everyone's giving him shout-outs and tagging this, that, and the other thing. And one of these pro BMXers who I followed my whole life was basically saying, you know, look at all the cool stuff we've done over the last 15 years. And the last picture was them at this big manner in Ireland. And I was looking at the picture being like, holy crap, there's like 20 really famous actors and some of the best skaters and action sports athletes in the whole world were all in Ireland at the one time for his
I
wedding
actually
venue.
listened to his podcast with Joe Rogan. I thought it was one of the best podcasts. I just really loved listening to what he was saying. His life was sounding amazing. And like obviously it's not anything like here. Like America's massive, but is the urban scene really ramping up in this country? Is it? Is the talent improving?
You know, the funny thing is, it was actually growing massively. The talent in Ireland was as high as it has ever been in the history of the sport. Between 2013 and 2015, at T13, because everybody had what they wanted and needed. The skaters had their plaza. The scooter kids had their plaza. The rollerbladers had what we called the rollerblade banks, and the BMXers had the rhythm room, and then the contest course that we built for NAS. Everybody had everything they needed to get as good as they wanted. But as soon as we started doing the big events, all those ramps and all those setups disappeared. So the quality of riding was at its peak in this country across a broad spectrum of people, probably around 2014. And when I had
expect you to think that where it could have went to had you stayed true, had everyone stayed true to the roots where you could be now?
Yeah, we would have multiple world-class athletes here for sure, and we would probably highly
been successful.
Hopefuls from Ireland for sure.
Sorry, mate, I interrupted you. What'd you say there?
I said if T13 had never deviated and we had got as good as we intended to be, or the original plan was, we would absolutely definitely have multiple world-class athletes from Belfast and Ireland in the world platform, and we would almost definitely have Irish Olympic athletes as well.
Would T13 have been able to sustain itself without those, or do you think it would have been more successful? And it was all hindsight and all that stuff, but do you reckon that the skateboard thing could have kept it generating the money it needed to stay open?
It was never a long-term thing. So getting into the T13 building and doing what we did, we always knew it was temporary. But from the day and hour that we moved in, we understood that it was a pilot exercise. And as soon as we were done, we were going to do what we did with the previous skate park. We were going to take our learnings and we were going to move on to something bigger, better, or more sustainable. So even though in 2013 we were starting to do the music events and the cultural events and things, we still had a long-term goal, and that was to use public funding to put a purpose-built indoor centre of excellence in the Titanic Quarter, which would be like the Woodward of Ireland. That was the plan. And as far as I was concerned, we were always working towards it. And there would have been a point where we would have moved out of T13 into the new building had that project have, come to fruition. But every day I was going to work was one step closer to that end goal of this big, large, funded, sustainable wow factor reason why kids get to do BMXing for PE instead of swimming and hockey. That's how I was looking at it. And it eventually just got to the point where I was like, we're not working towards this anymore.
So you seen your vision and dream dying. So it's sort of like you're maybe subconsciously you knew you had to get out of there, and it was a blessing in disguise.
It felt as if the team and my business partner wanted to work on other things, but they never actually sat down and said, "Here, you know what? Listen, this has been awesome, but we actually want to work on this now." That never happened. That's the one thing I feel that didn't happen there. And you know what? I don't resent the guys, and I don't resent my time there. I'm actually glad that I put those hours in and I put that time in, because the people I met and what I've learned is completely invaluable to my current circumstance. And if I hadn't have gone through those learnings on what felt like a massive failure, then I wouldn't be able to make decisions and calls and be confident about my decisions now. Because
funny, isn't it?
I had to make them decisions. I had to make those failures first to be able to succeed on my own. And actually, if we're looking at, what is success? is success money? Is success people through the door? Is the amount of people you employ? Is the amount of families you support? What is it?
For me,
if we're
it's
looking at success in a measure of money, you know, my new venture matches the income we made with a building 10 times bigger years ago. If that's a measure of success, then I'm currently successful, you know. But ultimately for me, I'm currently in another pilot project because I just want to take it to an absolute world-class level. And eventually we'll get there. I'm not sure how long it'll take, but
that's a good segue because I want to get into the Thunder Park. So what is Thunder Park then?
So when I decided
T13, what's Thunder Park?
When I decided to leave T13, I was involved in 3 businesses that were all kind of wrapped up in that venue. So I walked away from everything. I went from being a 50% business owner, a director of a charity, and a director of a CIC to just Matt Gillespie doing nothing in a day. And I really resented that. I knew it was necessary. I knew I had to leave, basically for my own mental health, my own sanity. I had to leave because it just felt like a toxic work environment. And everything that I felt responsible for and cared about was out of my control. And I just thought, I'm not putting my name to this anymore. I'm out. So really, I just took a 2-year break. I ended up meeting my partner, who was my girlfriend, who's now my wife. And we had our son, Maxwell, who is just the coolest thing ever.
How old's Maxwell now?
Max is 4.
4?
4 years, 4 months.
I thought he was the same age as Evelyn. I wasn't too sure.
Aye. So in those 2 years of leaving, we basically got married, had our son, and I always knew I was going to go back to it. I just didn't know where and when and with who. So thankfully, the whole way through my sort of self-employed life or working through Unit 13, T13, I basically met some really good people who ended up sort of moving on with me. So whenever I decided to move on, they were like, listen, I want to do what you're doing. Tell me what you're doing and I'm there, you know. And I'm forever grateful for them guys. And I have to absolutely attribute what they've contributed to me to the success of my current business. So I can't pretend I've done this on my own. But ultimately, I left a partnership and a staff base of like 40. You know, so T13, there was 8 directors and about 40 staff. And I started this place with me and 2 others who'd never touched power tools. So I was teaching boys how to use power tools whilst building the new facility that would eventually be our full-time jobs. So it's like, you could write a book about it. It's just so unrealistic. But I didn't have the ability to go to the bank and borrow. And I couldn't afford to pay a professional company to come in and build my new facility. So we had to just take what we'd learned from T13, buy some power tools, beg, borrow, and steal wood, put something together, paint it, open it, and here we are a couple of years later, and it's thriving. Now, don't get me wrong. Thank God, touch wood, this pandemic, prolonged lockdown situation hasn't sunk us. It hasn't really helped us, but it hasn't put us out of business, thank God. So we're looking forward to relaunching very soon. But really, it was an idea between me and 2 others. And we just talked about it to the point where we just said, right, listen, let's do it.
Is it a BMX? Is it a BMX ramp, or is it a skate park, or is it a thing? What is it?
It depends how you look at it. The idea for Thunder Park when I first opened it was that I wanted somewhere where I could allow people to train safely. So when I moved on from T13, I started Thunder Action Sports, and a good mate of mine who's been doing BMX stunt shows with me for a long time, he helped me come up with a name. So we started doing stunt shows, basically getting the guys together. We had some ramps. We got some of our past clients to book us, and we were doing stunt shows at events like Culture Night and Cyclovia and various big sort of community festivals in Belfast and around the country. And a lot of the people who were coming to our events were saying, where do you guys train? You know, can you show us how to do this? Can we come to your place? And I guess I got asked the question enough times where I thought, you know what, there's clearly a demand for an indoor venue. And everybody who's in my stunt team are all very highly experienced coaches, because we had practiced our coaching and done flipping hundreds, if not thousands of hours of it through T13 and prior to that. So we thought to ourselves, right, listen, let's open an indoor park, but it's not going to be just a skate park. It has to be designed to run coaching programs because we're the only people that actually deliver coaching. So that was the idea behind it. It was, let's build something that is nothing like anywhere else. So it's not like Thunder Park is just built for BMXers or just built for scooter people or just built for skateboarding. It's actually designed and built in such a way that I can coach 50 kids at one time if I have a private booking, or I can let 150 kids run amok and do their thing on a weekend. But at the same time, on quieter session days, there's an area that favors skateboarding very well, and there's an area that suits BMX very well, and there's an area that suits scootering very well. And then I guess the cherry on top was that we put a foam pit and a resi ramp in.
Oh, did you?
Those are training ramps that you can basically learn tricks on without the risk of serious injury or a much reduced risk of injury. So those types of ramps had never really existed in the country before, certainly not the resi. And for me, being able to open something with a ramp like that you would otherwise have to fly or get a boat to England and drive, you'd need to spend substantial time and money to go and ride a resi ramp. Now you just have to come to Bangor. And it's absolutely amazing. I would say in the first 6 months of opening Thunder Park, we maybe had 100 tricks landed on that ramp that had never been done before. Like, not never in the world, but never in Ireland had somebody landed these tricks. So all of a sudden, people are now doing double backflips in Ireland. That's a big deal. It may not be a big deal to someone who doesn't care, but for me, knowing that I've created a venue that's allowed that to happen is just like beyond.
That goes back to your success. What is success? You've provided. That is for me, that's ultimate success, Matt, when you think about it, because in your wee niche, you've provided an opportunity for all these kids who really watch the X Games and watch all the big BMXers, dream about being able to do that, and then they found a place that you've actually provided the ability for them to not just dream about it, but actually become part of the history of BMXing. They're doing tricks that they never once, like 10 years ago, never been feasible in this country. So that, to me, that's a sign of massive success. You've cemented and stamped your name into like BMX folklore in the country. So, that can never be taken away from you. I think that's
certainly one of the things that I enjoy most about the place.
Just knowing that you've sort of
that we've been able to bring about what couldn't happen before, and we didn't have to have a massive sponsor or substantial money to do it. It was literally just some way, somehow, guys, we're doing this. And we came to work every day, and we didn't necessarily know what we were doing. And I had to lead every single part of every job because we were either making it up as we went or we were facing every challenge as it came along and learning how to do things. It was Mikey and Joel who built Thunder Park with me. And those are mates who I've had for anything from 5 to 20 years.
Is Joel still with you?
Joel has left us, but he's still part of our stunt team. But he left to pursue a career that he needed. And I totally respect that. And you know what? He's taken his success and determination in BMX and he's taken that and applied it to the rest of his life. So he went into a job after he helped us build Thunder Park. He sidestepped into another career, and he now manages a store in Belfast for Cafe Nero. In the short space of about 2.5 years, he went from being a barista to a manager and can now afford to buy a house at 24? Like, that's incredible. That's a big success, and I'm proud of him.
He was certainly BMXer,
he still is.
Unbelievable BMX, and so he was. I remember seeing his tricks, and I was going, "Whoa, that's insane!"
I'll never forget the time when we first met him. I think it was 2012 in T13. He came in with this wee crap, cheapy silver bike with purple parts. And he was just pedaling as fast as he could at the jumps. And I'm looking at him thinking, that bike's going to break. You're putting your life, you really are putting your life in your hands here. Rolling the dice, doing these big tricks on a bike that is not designed for it. And in less than, I can remember clear as day, Mikey, who still works with me now, was sitting beside me on the deck of the ramp and we're watching him doing these tricks. And we looked at each other being like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? We're actually spotting the most incredible raw talent we've seen in a decade, riding a piece of crap. So I think it was less than a month later, we basically went home and raided our garages and found all of our decent spare parts and built him a better bike and gave it to him. And I'm telling you, he went from nothing to the top 5 best riders in Ireland in 6 months. That's how good Joel was.
What you just done there is, I love hearing these stories. What we done was we went home, we rated our. You just literally done what it is to be human. You can provide someone an opportunity. It's not costing you anything except for a wee bit of time, and then that's done for him is like exponential.
It's not even just him, Paul. It's what it did for all of us. Because if Joel hadn't got as good as he did, then Simon wouldn't have pushed as hard, and Ryan wouldn't have pushed as hard, and Arthur wouldn't have got as good. So actually, us turning around and going, holy crap, we need to make sure this guy has no barriers. If he needs pads, give him pads. If he breaks his bike, give him parts, because we need to see how good he can get, because he's doing stuff that we can't do, and we're BMXing 15 years, and he's coming in as a youngster and just sending front flips and landing them. And everybody else is watching it, and we're just like, whoa, keep that going. Don't stop that momentum.
I remember watching, there was 2 kids I used to watch with just my jaw. Well, 3 actually. My jaw hit the floor, but it's back to 2 of them. There was Joel on the bikes, and there was wee Matt McCreary on the parkour.
Yes.
And just, they defied gravity, and just like the sheer balls they had to do what they done, you would just be going, what the fuck? In fact, did you watch Matt McCreary's documentary?
Yeah, I did, man.
Isn't
that incredible how well he's done?
That's an Oscar-winning documentary for me. That was such an inspiring, and he came off like, what age is Matt? 24, maybe 25. But you could see
he could be older than that.
Well, whatever, I can't remember what age, but his experience, you could see how much it matured him. But there was one topic they were talking about when they were living in the Spanish mountains, or whatever mountain it was, and he said something about making a cup of coffee, and he goes, you make a cup of coffee, you get up, you turn the kettle on, and you pour it in, that's it. And he goes, well, now we want a cup of coffee, so we have to get up, get dressed, and I have to walk to get some wood, we have to bring a saw, and then we have to cut the trees down, and then we have to carry those logs back, and then we've got to start a fire, and then we've got to get the water, and we've got to boil the water, and then we've got to boil it. And he's like, so it's taking half an hour to 45 minutes to get your cup of coffee every day. He said, but that cup of coffee, because that coffee tastes amazing. And for me, that's what it's about, community, and like it shows you, like, you know, the simple things in life. I think what's wrong with, I know we're going on a bit of a tangent here, but I think what's wrong in life today is it's too comfortable. Not enough people have had to endure struggle and see it through. And, you know, just that simple, like when he was talking about, he went away to travel Europe with like, it was like €7 in his pocket or something. And he traveled the whole of Europe with €7 in his pocket. Do you know, and use his talent and use his skills and suffered hardship.
And busked to get by.
But it was brilliant.
How many times can I run up a wall and do a backflip a day to make enough to eat tonight? You know?
And he did something like that. That just shows you, like, so cool. Human spirit and the drive. That documentary, what do you call that documentary? I can't remember. It was a brilliant documentary, though. But that really did inspire me, that wee documentary. I bought it and I was like, that is brilliant. I watched it twice because I just thought it was so inspiring. And I just think, I think maybe that's that T13 urban sort of skate parky, like, do you know that culture where
it was the first big drive where people could come in and go, if this can happen, anything's possible.
Yeah.
I think what I think about the urban, in a big corporate area and turn grungy, dirty, disgusting yuck into an urban playground for anybody, like, anything's possible. And the success stories that have come out of that place are as long as my arm. And that's what I'm most proud of, you know. What I enjoy about the urban skate scene
is it's very much living in the moment. Do you know, you need to, like, if you're a skateboarder, you need a skateboard in a ramp, or you need a skateboard in some like outdoor area where you can just try tricks. It's a very much, you live in the moment. They live for the now, and they don't really tend to care about yesterday or tomorrow. It's about getting that trick, and there's a camaraderie ship. I loved watching it because there was never any ego really in it. Okay, they were maybe competing against each other, but it was like it doesn't matter who nailed the trick. If you nailed the trick, everyone jumped up, and it was like, yeah! I loved that. There was a humanness about it that I just was like, this is what it's to be human, encouraging each other, not competing against each other in a negative way. It was beautiful.
That's one of the biggest hooks to this industry for everybody involved. It's like you could go into a skate park and have never seen anybody there before, and you could be watching somebody trying a trick, and I guarantee if you're into it, regardless of who you know or don't know, you're going to be as excited as everybody else there. And the second you're looking around and seeing the buzz, that's you, your mates. Everyone in that room is your friend.
The energy, it just takes you up and carries you. I actually remember one time because do you remember like the length of T13 was so crazy? Myself and Mick Taggart, we used to get skateboard,
scooters and longboards,
and just use longboards to traverse to go to the toilet and all. So we would come in and we would try the wee ramps. And I remember standing on one of the small ramps, and there was all these wee 8-year-olds and 9-year-old kids. They were all just jumping in. And I was like shitting myself, and they were all encouraging me. And I was looking around going, here's this 38-year-old man or 37-year-old man. And they're all going, Mister, go for it. And then see when I'd done it, they're all like, yo! Even though all I'd done was like drop down this wee tiny ramp, they were celebrating my success. And I actually remember thinking to myself, that's pretty awesome that 8-year-old kids are encouraging adults and they're cheering an adult on for succeeding something that they can do with their eyes closed, backflipping it.
Well, they were probably raking you, but all the same, it was a good buzz.
To be honest, I thought that they were actually genuinely cheering, because I can remember why I done it. One kid jumped down and gave me a high five, and I remember he's going, that's class, this wee kids come down to high five me because this adult's got the ball to drop down like a 2-foot ramp.
Isn't it?
It was brilliant. And I think there's definitely, like, I know, like the urban scene, some people may think, oh, look at them people, but there's a community there that is very hard to find in other sports and other areas. And I don't know whether it's like, I don't know what's cultivated, but it's brilliant. It's a really, I think other places could learn from that culture.
I think it's because it's an absolute resilience builder. If you're good at something, especially scootering, skateboarding, or BMXing, it is an absolute factual impossibility that you have got to a highly skilled level without serious injuries and continual injuries. And this is a conversation I had last night, actually, with a good friend. We were saying that we think that the reason why we have been such good mates for such a long time is because, or developed the skill level that we have, is because we have had serious injuries, like mega swellbows, teeth knocked out, flipping compression fractured vertebrae, broken kneecaps, broken ankles, broken toes, ligaments, tears, holes, you name it. All of us have done it. And when you get through that pain, you're experiencing this pain level maybe from 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. Kids nowadays don't really seem to do that, but we battered ourselves. And you get to a certain level and you're just like, do you know what? Pain hurts, but so what? I want to do that trick. And I'm going to feel amazing with all my bumps and bruises. And
I think
whenever you're surrounded by a load of people doing that same thing, there's a serious amount of mutual respect that's built up there that's real. It's not like, you're cool. It's just like, I've seen you absolutely empty yourself for 5 years. You're a total dude. You know what I mean? And those kind of bonds form from seeing people going through hardship for success,
I think when MMA started off in Ireland, it was like it was a similar journey to you, in the sense that no one knew what it was, no one knew what they were doing. We just done it because we were doing it, and we were enjoying it. But it was the pain of it and the punching, and very few people would run in and willingly get punched in the face over and over and over again. And it was that sort of, you found a couple of people who were willing to do this, and it was like that bond. It was like, we're doing something that no one else is doing. It's cool. It's awesome, and that sort of, it attracts a certain element of person or type person, and you build that community slowly. And because I'm very like you. You were there in the very beginning of skateboarding, I was one of the pioneers of MMA in the country, so I've seen it evolve and grow. So I can sort of definitely understand where you're coming from and feel exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you think the skate scene and the BMX scene is going to grow once this lockdown crap is over, or do you think it's going to stagnate for a while and take a while to grow again?
I genuinely hope that actually the Olympics is going to have a massive surge of interest in the sports. So nowadays, like, let's go back to 2010. 99.9% of the apps on my phone didn't exist in 2010. So whenever in 2010, if you went down T13 with a smartphone, you maybe Instagrammed. I don't even know if Instagram existed, but you might have went on Facebook and said, "I'm in the skate park," but you certainly weren't glued to your phone all day. But you might have filmed clips and things like that. So it was a lot easier to surround yourself with a load of mates, set your technology down, and just simply get involved in sport or activities and push yourself and enjoy other people's company. Nowadays, fast forward 10 years, kids are coming to the skate park or going to a football match. They have their phone in their hand the entire time. They almost have their phone in their hand right up until the ball's kicked off. And sometimes they might even have their phone in their hand right up until they need to kick the ball. You know what I mean? Or drop in or whatever. So what I would really hope is that we can try and find a way to encourage people to be as present as possible and just get absolutely stuck into something. Doesn't matter what it is, just do something. Get off your bloody technology, get away from your apps, get away from your phone. I am probably less than 7 days away from degrading back to an old phone. So I'm currently hunting. You know the way when you get a SIM, when you get a SIM card now, right? It's the micro SIM card, but then it has a wee frame around it, and then it has another wee frame around it. So I actually need to find 2 frames to make my micro SIM card fit in a bog standard brick phone, because I want away from technology. I think those distractions just compromise my life, and I'm just not up for it anymore.
I think society's going that way. It's going to be It's going to be the people who believe what's happening and the vaccines are going to go one way, and I think there's going to be a split in society, and you're going to find the likes of ourselves who are just, it's more simplistic, more community based, more like connection with a one-on-one and like a community base rather than the need for technology, because the need for technology is actually destroying the ability to be human.
You're totally right. I'll give you an example, right? And I take no pleasure in saying this whatsoever. So I run the Instagram and Facebook pages for my current business, right? Now, I could be standing in the skate park on a bog standard Saturday, and there could be anything from 60 to 150 people around me, not just kids and adults. And the younger generation, for sure, wouldn't necessarily come and speak to me, knowing that I work there or I'm the boss or the owner or whatever way you want to look at it. They wouldn't necessarily say a word to me, but they're all aware that I run the social media page. Now, here's the thing. I could have 10-year-olds around me, or under 15s, and none of them would be talking to me. But if I had my phone in my hand and I went on Instagram, they would all talk to me on Instagram, right beside me, but not to my face. That's how kids work. That's how kids work now. And I have experienced that many times. Like, I could be standing beside a kid called Jamie who's got Instagram, and he'd be like, "What's happening, Matt? How's the park going today?" And I am aware that it's him right there. But he won't have a conversation with me, but he'll talk to me through an app. That's a real thing.
That's insane, isn't it? Like,
but it's the truth, man. And it's kind of scary. I feel like we're almost saturated with it. And I've got to the point where I'm like, do I feel happier doing this? I definitely don't. Am I happier if I can see my mate for a year? If I have a friend who lives in Scotland, right? I can see what he's doing every hour of every day because he lives on his Instagram. So I don't really have any need to follow him. Or if I see him tomorrow, I've nothing to talk about because I know all about his life because I see it every day. Whereas if I ditch this and delegate all those socials to somebody who wants to do it or who's good at it or doesn't feel the way I do about it, and then I bump into that person, I'm going to be absolutely delighted to see him because I don't know everything about him because I'm not seeing it 24 hours a day. This level of connectivity is just so unhealthy. It's saturating. That's overwhelming.
We're definitely going. We're going towards like where humans are going to be connected to machines, and it's Skynet, and then it's going to be the Terminators, and then we're going to die. It's going that direction. Like it's. I'm just waiting for Arnie to come back and
dig a hole.
It's going to be mad. But listen, we'll leave it there, mate, because it's coming. I've just run over an hour and 10 minutes. That was an absolutely amazing conversation. But before we go, can I where do people get a hold of you, and how do people get in contact with you to get the Thunder skate and all that stuff, and what day are you opening? Give me all the details.
So Thunder Park is based in Eddie Irvine Sports in Bangor. That's on the Ballou Road indoor go-kart centre. It's been around for a long time. We're open 3 years now, and we are reopening on the 27th of May. Fingers crossed Arlene and Michelle don't throw any curveballs, which I can't pretend I'm not expecting. But we're reopening on the 27th of May. All bookings will be online through a brand new website that's just about to launch, thunderactionsports.com. And as well as that, we have just launched an action sports shop. So you can come to our centre in Bangor now and touch and feel and experience a scooter, a skateboard, a BMX, and all the equipment you need in between that you couldn't do before.
And what ages does it go from?
Right now, 6 years old upwards. Our average age, I would say the average age customer on the weekends, anything's from sort of 10 to 12. During the week, it would mainly be adults because kids are in school and we run coaching classes and clubs. But listen, if you want to find us on Facebook, it is Thunder Park. Send a message through. There's no filters. Comes through to me. You can hit me up, ask me anything.
Brilliant, mate. Well, thank you very much for that conversation. I actually really enjoyed that. It actually surprisingly a lot more detail than I thought I was going to go into. I really enjoyed that, mate. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it's good to catch up.
Yes, mate. I'll speak to you very soon.
100%. Thank you.
See you later. Bye.